We did mention audio exporting before in the lessons in this course, actually. And when exporting audio, enough to do is just choose, using this loop boundaries, the time section of audio you want to export, and then just soloing the things that you wanted to export. Let's say just one synthesizer like this one, or everything you hear without soloing, or just choosing what you want to export by soloing what you need, listening to that, and then deciding if that's what you want. If that is so, you just click File, Export Audio. The shortcut is Ctrl-Shift-R. On a Mac, Command-Shift-R. You get this menu, and then you're exporting the master channel. So whatever is heard at the moment will be exported. I've told you before that you could choose separate channels. So choosing only the disto synth, let's say like this, you would export only this channel. And no matter what is soloed and what is heard once you play, this option would export only that track. Now you can also export only the selected tracks. So I could select a couple of tracks like this using Control or Shift, and now only the tracks that are selected would be exported. Going into the menu like that, selected tracks only. Now the export would hold the tracks I selected in this duration, in the duration of this loop, starting from 57, lasting for 16 bars. And you can see that that's exactly where the render starts, and the length of the render is 16 bars from 57 to 73. We talked about file formats already, like WAV, AIFF, or the sample rate, bit depth of the file you're exporting, dithering options, normalizing, converting to mono. So we went through all of those, but a good thing to know would be that if you're exporting something to be mastered, if it's not a final version of the file that is going to be sold, that would usually be 16-bit, yeah? The ones that we listen to and consume. So MP3s, all the MP3s you get, all the WAV files, FLAC files you get. The CD format is generally 44/100 16-bit. So that will be your final version of the song. But if it's something in between, something before that, if it's just pieces of audio you need for another song, I suggest going with 24-bit at least. So this way you can export audio of all these tracks selected in this duration, this part, in that format. Now, what you could do also is select the entire track. Let's say I wanted to export stems for the entire track. Stems mean that I would export each track separately as a separate WAV file. This would be very useful if I wanted to migrate this project into another DAW, for example. So if I wanted to now transfer this into, let's say, Pro Tools or Cubase, Logic, wherever, to mix down, if I'm going to another studio that doesn't have this software, or I'm giving it to another mixing engineer who prefers a different DAW, well, this is what you could use. Now, when you do this batch exporting, let me show you. So all individual tracks, if I did that, if I exported this entire track with all individual tracks, what I would get is all of the tracks exactly. So that would mean I would get all of these right here, plus all of the returns, plus the master channel. Okay, to show you this in practice, I've chosen this song to do a batch export of it, so you would see what's happening. Now, I'm going to go File and click on Export Audio. I'm going to not choose the master track, I'm going to choose all individual tracks. Now, clicking that, and let's say we use 24-bit depth resolution, as if we're mixing something again, we usually want a better bit depth resolution. Okay, so let's click Export, and now I'm going to have to choose a folder where I'm going to put this. I'll do that on my desktop. I'll say Techno Kings 3 stems, like that. Enter that folder. And Techno Kings 3, well, this is going to be long. Just so you know that every single track within this export is going to have this name first and then the name of the track after. So to make that shorter and easier to read, I'm just going to do this TK as Techno Kings. 3. So I'm going to save it like that, and now it's exporting. So let's wait for this export to finish. I will speed up this piece of the video so that we don't wait too long. Okay, now that that's done, let me create a new project where I'm going to import all of these files. Okay, so let's see the folder. These are all the stems, our entire track in stems. I'm just going to pull up all of them. I'm going to select all of them, Control A. Of course, I'm going to go into this arrangement view. And once I place all of those selected like that, it's going to place them all one after another. Now, if I want all of my files one underneath each other, so I want each one of those files I selected to enter this project on a new track, I can just press Control on my keyboard and hold it before I let go of the mouse button. So I drag them in, click Control, and now they're all going to be placed one under each other. If I don't hold Control, they will all be placed one after another. So holding Control effectively puts them in one under another. Now what Ableton is doing is creating images of waveforms for each one of these files, and you can even see that being added underneath each one of these. So it is the same file name .asd. So that's the extension for the waveform of the file, for the image of the file. As you see, many of these seem empty since they are not drawn yet. So now we have to wait for Ableton to actually draw out all of the waveforms for each one of these channels. Okay, now I have skipped to the end of this rendering of the waveforms so that you wouldn't have to wait for it to render all the way, but it took a good 2 or 3 minutes, even on my machine, which rendered from SSD hard drive. So it takes a lot of time for a lot of audio waveforms to be rendered. But now that we have that, the first thing, let's say a mixing engineer, when he receives a track like this, would do is actually correct the BPM of the track of the project so that it actually coincides with the wave files you sent them. So let's say 124, that's the original one, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but if you wanted to edit something like cut out a piece of the song, it would be really nice to have it aligned like this in tempo. Now, when he receives this, amongst all of those files that we exported, we have the original track exported completely. So we have the master channel, and that one is just named TK3 by the name of our song. So let's play that. So we have the entire track, and of course, if we wanted to just play this right now, we would have the entire track plus the entire track on one channel. So we have to disable this one. Now, this could be useful for the mastering engineer to actually see what you wanted, or the mixing engineer actually to see what you wanted to do with it, what your mix sounded like completely, and you can always send that as a reference. But another thing to take care of is that we have group channels also exported right here. So aside of having all the drums exported separately, we do have the drums group right here. So I do have all of the drums separately right there, like the kick drum, the clap. See, so I have everything separately, but I also have it as a group once again. So if I played it just right now, everything without muting anything, I would have the double drums. So I don't want this group to be heard right here, and I don't want this stuff to be heard there. That's a group channel for everything else that's not the drums, the bass, or the FX. Also, I have the FX group right here, and I don't want to hear that one either. So now that I've muted all of my group tracks and the master track, which is all the way on the bottom, I can play the track, and hopefully this is going to be all of the wave files I had in the original, so it should sound the same. Now, it does not sound the same, and there is a reason for it. The reason for that is that I had more processing on the group tracks that contained these tracks, so my mix doesn't sound the same. If a mixing engineer wanted to preserve everything I did on the group tracks, he would just have to use only the group tracks and hear only those. So he would solo this, and this. And that's about it. Why I'm pointing this out is that alongside with each individual channel in your song, you do have the master track exported, so you have the track again all at once in one track, and you have all your group tracks which contain the tracks that you already have there. So if you wanted to send somebody not too much control over your mix, you could send them only the group tracks. And out of this project, it would only be 4 WAV files. That would be only the drums, the bass, the FX, and everything else in one more group. So usually that's what I have. I have 4 groups, sometimes 6, 8. It depends on the project itself. I'm just saying, take care and be wary that if you export this and send it to somebody, there is a lot more than just all of the individual tracks. There is the group tracks too, there is the sense, the FX sense, and the original master track. If you're sending files to somebody to mix it down for you, to a mixing engineer, I suggest doing any bit depth higher than 16-bit. Of course, you could send 16-bit files, but I really strongly suggest going for 24 or 32-bit. 24 is most universal, supported by most of the digital to analog converters and back, all the hardware ones also, most of the sound cards that you can find on the market today. So 24-bit, leaving the sampling rate at which you actually made the song is the smartest thing to do when sending stems to somebody else.